Hi. So to start off, I've included a link below to a graph that I will mention in my speech that you might want to click on now, and then you can bring it up when I mention it later in the speech. Hi, my name is Ashley Delepine, and the title of my speech is The Importance of Crop Diversity and Preserving Plant Species. My three main supporting points for this, why it is important, is that it should help to aid in fighting off disease in insects. It will help in preserving traits and varietals that will be able to withstand climate change, and it will help to feed a growing population. So together with the air we breathe and the water we drink, crop diversity is one of the most fundamentally important resources for human life on Earth. It has become a major global issue, and it will affect the masses. Preserving seed varietals is a very important issue that we're facing today. And if you want to click on the link now to look at the graph, this might help for a little visual aid. I'll start with the story of agriculture, and that is that everything starts with a seed. And we've drastically lost many species over the last 100 years. This is mostly due to monocrops. And here you'll be able to see on the graph some of the main high-yield crops that we had about a century ago, and how many different varietals we had of them, and then how many we have of those same varietals now. Pretty grim looking. These specific crops produce the highest yield. And not only with plants, but in addition to livestock, the world depends on a very small variety of chickens due to their high yield because they have more meat, they're bigger. But many less common chicken varieties have traits that would be heat or disease resistant in the future. And same goes for cattle, but we're letting all these different varietals die off, unfortunately. An average of 80% of our caloric intake comes from 12 plant species, yet there are 30,000 known edible species. And the same goes in forestry practices. We cultivate only 100 species, yet there are 60,000 species. So with the use of pesticides, there's been an increase in genetically grafted and cloned plants, which means there's been an increase in the use of pesticides. For example, the apple. A century ago, there were thousands of varieties in commerce, and now most are grafted from only about 6 different varieties, and this was done for marketing reasons. This has become very detrimental to the apple because of being cloned. It is necessary for orchardists to use more pesticides on the apples. In nature, plants, bugs, animals are constantly evolving and adapting to withstand harmful diseases. So when a plant is grafted or cloned, it has no ability to create this defensive characteristic on its own, and so then they have to increase the use of pesticides. Monocrops have then been called the sitting duck for pests because entire crops are wiped out since they've only planted one variety. Pesticide use in non-organic farms is constantly increasing. It's said that they spend $500,000 a year on chemicals for only 100 acres. This has rendered the apple less fit and requires more pesticide than any other food crop. So biodiversity in crops is essential for survival so that they may naturally adapt. And then next, in order to preserve our plant and seed varieties, we need biodiversity. It is a global consensus among the scientific community that climate change is happening. The world is warming up. So today's best varietal could be lunch tomorrow for a pest. They may not be able to have the characteristics to withstand rising temperatures. So the coldest growing seasons of the future will be hotter than anything that any of these crops have seen. Saving varietals that have useful traits for climate change is our best hope. Current agriculture crops have not adapted to this climate because they have not experienced it yet. So in places like Africa and South Asia will be hit the hardest. The countries in the Sahara region that grow mainly corn, specifically maize, will be hit very hard as well. It's estimated that 30% decrease in yield in these crops by 2030. This is a very drastic decrease, which means that millions will starve. So there's no sustainable solution to climate change without having crop diversity. If agriculture and crops can't adjust to climate change, then neither can we. This also coincides with the increase in population. Right now we're at over 7 billion people, and that number is rising drastically. If we're expecting a loss in crop yield, then we do nothing to improve our crop diversity, then this is going to detrimentally coincide with the increase in population. It's estimated that 50% increase in population growth in the next 50 years due to exponential growth. All of this is sitting amongst the situations of global warming and escalating warfare. Things seem to be looking quite grim. But there are things being done to improve the situation. There are seed banks all over the world working to collect and preserve seed varietals. Banks, though, are very delicate and are constantly facing disasters. When we lose one seed, we lose that varietal forever. There's no way to get it back. Certain banks, such as in Iraq and Afghanistan, have been completely demolished during warfare. Right now, the largest seed bank in the world is the Millennium Seed Bank in southern England, and they have over 3 billion seed species. They also expect to have 25% of the world's plant species by 2020. Another very important seed bank that opened in 2008 is the Svalbard Global Seed Bank. They're located in Norway, north of the mainland of Norway. It's a very safe, cold, and remote location. They do not rely on mechanical refrigeration because of how cold it is there naturally. So if anything were to happen with their power, it would be no problem because the seed would remain in a cold environment. It's been designed to withstand natural man-made disasters. It's hardly noticeable and is literally a hole in the ground. They have over 425,000 crop varieties, and it was created by conservationist Carrie Fowler. They're working to collect more seeds. What we can do to help is collect seeds ourselves. We can send them to different seed banks around the world and start creating a card catalog of all these different varietals. We can also offer our financial support. So in summary, my three main points for the importance of crop diversity and preserving our plant species is that it will help to aid in fighting off disease and insects without the use of pesticides. We'll be able to preserve traits in plant varieties that will be able to withstand climate change, and we'll be able to feed a growing population. High-yielding, sustainable food production can only begin by conserving crop diversity. Thank you.